For the better part of the Chicago Board of Trade's history, the exchange was built on the back of grains traders. Mike Forrester, who started at the CBOT in 1963, has seen the best and worst of corn, wheat, and soybean markets during his time on the floor. John Lothian News sat down with Forrester and spoke with him about a career that has lasted more than 50 years. How did you get your start at the CBOT?
Well, I started out as a messenger for the old Almond Grain Company back in 1963, roughly. And as a runner, I just got interested in the markets. And I started trading job lots on my own, back and forth and back and forth. And I really liked it. And I was moderately successful for being new. I was very careful. And then Almond decided they wanted me to be a stockbroker because they had joined the New York Stock Exchange. And they sent me to Grand Rapids, Michigan to study the Series 7 test that you have to take. You had to take it then, I don't know about now. And I took the Series 7, and I was there for, I don't know, probably a year, and got very involved in the Republican Party there because I thought that that was certainly a good way to get business, but I really didn't like being a salesman. And so I asked them if I could come back, and they said, sure, but you got to be a runner. And I said, that's okay, as long as I could trade a little bit. And they knew I was trading, and I started doing more and more job lots and trading more and more. And then a guy from Garvey Grain Company, Bill Swaby, came up and asked me if I'd like to help them start their clearing operation in Chicago. They were already clearing, but they needed to develop it because all they had was cash grain and a few little bit of hedging going on. And so I said, sure, I'll do that. And said goodbye to the almonds, and they couldn't have been nicer. And I went on from there, and I was with them quite a while, maybe 5 years. And that's when Pat Hennessy came up to me on the floor and asked me if I'd be interested in being a partner of a new firm that they were starting called Hennessy and Associates. And I was 27 years old. Yes, I was. I definitely would be, yes. What's this going to cost me? I don't have a lot of money. I got more than I had before, but nothing great. Well, forget what it was, but it wasn't a lot. Back then you could clear for a couple $100,000 and divide that by 6. Well, it wasn't huge. And I was with them about 2 years, and I left there, and I was just trading on my own, and Ray Gerstenberg Sr., who's now passed, came up to me and asked me if I was interested in being his partner. And that firm had been around since the 1800s, I think, maybe 1860 or 1870. His uncle, granduncle maybe, was one of the incorporators of the Board of Trade. And somewhere we have his certificate of membership in the Board of Trade. And I became his partner until the mid-late 80s. And we ran Gerstenberg and had a good firm. And I had about 60 floor traders. That's what I concentrated on. And I did have some commercial business, but no customer business as such, doctors and lawyers. I was president and CEO, and Ray was chairman. And what I did is I ran the floor traders and some of the commercial business. And I was the risk manager for that. And I solicited floor traders. And it was very important to me to have a winning group because we were all in the office. We all were in an office upstairs, and we didn't want debits, and we didn't want wild guys, and you know who some of the wild guys are over the years. We just didn't want them. And I could have maybe had a couple, 200, 300, 400 if I wanted, but I just didn't take everybody. I only took the guys that I really thought could contribute. And we had a big sign that my daughter painted. It said, "Think Tank meets here," over the lounge area, and we met every morning, and we talked. And I think some of the best traders and the best spreaders in the business at that time. And our total bad debt in all those years was $2,000 from floor traders.
What markets did you like to trade?
I traded corn, wheat, and soybeans. I probably traded a little more wheat in the beginning, and then went to beans later, because I had some commercial accounts in the wheat, and but I was always a spreader. I mean, I learned to spread, And very, very rarely did I take outright positions. And it's about risk management, making money in the market. And guys say, oh, I can make this much money on that trade and that much money. I always ask myself, how much can I lose if I'm wrong?
Why would traders try and hide their orders?
Back in those days, there wasn't a screen. And so if they sold wheat to Russia, let's suppose Continental sold a bunch of wheat to Russia, and they started buying it in the pit, it would tip off that they had done a big deal, and the market would go up with them, and probably more up than they needed to get their hedge. Whereas if they called me, I had so many people on the floor that were big traders that I or one of our brokers could go in the pit and do that position and get it covered as a local and then transfer it over to them at the end of the day.
The bar in the CBOT building, called Sign of the Trader, was a key meeting spot. What role did that play?
A lot of business got done down there, and I didn't go down there every day like some of the guys did, but I was down there a couple days a week. And we talked about market positions. We met and talked to people that might be willing to trade through Gerstenberg as a local, or people that came to me. And there was as much business done down there as there was up in the offices and on the floor.
How do you manage volatility?
You got to cut your size down. If things are too wild, either don't trade at all or trade smaller if you got a pretty good idea and not too much risk. One of the things that's happening these days is that I'm sure people watching this will know what full carry is on a spread, on a bean spread. Well, those funds don't care about full carry, and they'll run a market right through full carry, and you say, well, that can't happen. Well, if there's not enough people to take the other side of it, it can happen, and it has happened, and it's hurt some people. So there's no answer to that. I just cut way down.
If you were starting over today, what would you do differently?
I probably wouldn't be a trader today. It probably is something beyond the scope of my knowledge, because I think today this is heavy math. It's algorithms and it's all kind of computer models and all that, which I don't know anything about. And if I were to come into it today, I would have to learn all of that. Well, at 74, my chances of learning that are not much, nor do I want to. I like standing in the pit, watching people buy and sell and getting a feel of the market. That really made a difference.
Who are some of your mentors in the markets?
Well, I certainly admire our friend Tommy Cashman, because he's enough older than me that when I first started down there, he was already pretty experienced. And I don't think the Ullmans ever traded, but I learned a lot about business from them. And Pat Hennessy and Rusty Mayer were great traders, and I learned from them. So and guys like Ralph Root and Ricky Rocket Barnes and all those kind of guys, you all watch their style. And while a lot of them I wouldn't want to clear their business as a clearing member, I admired them and knew them, and learned a lot from the way they did things, and I learned a lot from the mistakes they made. A lot of guys made a lot of money in 73, 74, and then every year past that they lost money because they were trading in 78, the 73, 74 markets, which never happened. I was kind of a troublemaker, and I left high school after my second year and joined the Army. And back then they didn't know what dyslexia was, and it made it really hard. And so, they thought I was dumb in school, and they told me so. And I said, I don't know what I am, but I'm not dumb. I knew that. I knew what was going on in my head. And for parents out there that have dyslexic kids, there's more help now, but I don't think there's any cure for it. I've never heard of any cure for it. It's very difficult for people to get through that. And the Army gave me a lot of hope of being an independent thinker on my own, and I loved it. It was an experience. If you could get through that, you can't be. There's nothing much you can be afraid of, and fear is what destroys people. is they can't do it. I can't do this and I can't do that, but you can do anything. And the Board of Trade gave me, and the Army gave me that opportunity to be successful, to be honorable, to have people say he's a stand-up guy, and to know that you've never done anything dishonest at the Chicago Board of Trade in 50 years, and I can say that.